Alright everyone, I know I'm a little late on this one, and I know it's been out for several weeks. Spider-Man Homecoming. What do I have to say about this one? Well, I shouldn't review this one, obviously, without doing a little declining history of the whole Spider-Man franchise. Well, even though they're not all related to one another. The Sam Raimi franchise, starring Tobey Maguire. I like the first one, I love the second one. I thought the second one was still my favorite out of that whole trilogy. I thought the action was good. I thought the fight scene on the train was really good with Dr. Octavius, the story, and everything. You know, it had a great mix of campiness with seriousness, and, you know, it was like a comic book franchise. Up until the third one, yeah, you could all argue was a bit of a mess. Too much plot point, too many villains, plenty of stupid moments, especially with them strutting down the street, you know, with the weird hairdo sticking down, and of course, Topher Grace was not exactly the best choice cast to play Venom. So, yeah, obviously they did plan a fourth movie, but instead they just decided to let somebody else reboot it, and that's where Mark Webb came in. And then came, obviously, Andrew Garfield as the Web Slinger himself, instead of Mary Jane Watson, which they did have planned for the second movie, you know, it's Amazing Spider-Man 2, but instead they decided to focus more on Gwen Stacy, played by Emma Stone. And I thought they did a pretty good job with the first one, you know, the Lizard. And the second one, yeah, you could argue was not quite as good. It, you know, was a little bit of a convoluted mess, almost on par with Spider-Man 3 with putting too much in there. But I think it was pretty decent, a little bit better. But the developments on Electro, and especially Harry Osborn himself, he was the Green Goblin this time. Yeah, and you can argue the performances, especially out of Paul Giamatti, who was not really the full villain in this movie, and they were just saving it for another sequel, which obviously, as you know, they were planning and didn't happen. Yep, they had two sequels planned, Amazing Spider-Man 3 and 4, but yeah, it was pretty ridiculous how they ended the second one, just leading up to a sequel that never happened. So instead, bada bing, bada boom, this film came out. Yep, they decided gone was Andrew Garfield, and in came Tom Holland as the Web Slinger. And I have to admit, I was really skeptical on this, even after seeing him in Captain America Civil War, which is where we got the sneak peek at it. Yeah, I thought the kid looked a little bit young. Yeah, Tom Holland, as you know, he was in that 2012 or 2013 movie, The Impossible, you know, the one about the tsunami, starring Naomi Watts also. And of course, the 2015 movie, In the Heart of the Sea. So, yeah, again, I was skeptical on this, but, so, obviously, this was what it was leading up to, kind of its own story, but, obviously, he was going to be part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, as you all know. So, now then, the movie itself, how does it hold up? Even after seeing all the trailers and kind of scratching my head a little bit, I was, well, pretty impressed. I guess I worried for nothing, because I thought all the acting performances and everything were really good. I thought Tom Holland and all the other actors were very down to earth. A few quirky moments here and there. I like how, for one thing, it is not afraid to take liberties. It's its own thing. It's different. So comparing this is like comparing The Dark Knight, per se, to, you know, the Tim Burton films, or the one starring Adam West, even. I know I mention this a lot, but yeah, it's its own thing. It's different. It's all Avengers related. You know, it all involves him, part of, you know, the Avengers, and has Tony Stark involved, you know, aka Iron Man. And I like how it shows that he has flaw, you know, like at the beginning. And yeah, keep in mind there's going to be some spoilers in this. I should have addressed this earlier. Yeah, just reading the description, as a matter of fact. But yeah, I like how at the beginning it shows that he's not just like your typical superhero, but he makes mistakes, you know, like runs into a guy who he thinks stole a bike, and he's like, okay, whose bike is this? And never found it. And like, you know, he sees a person trying to break into a car, and he thinks it's a thief, but really he's just trying, you know, that person got locked out of their car. And yeah, he's running into a lot of problems. Like, he's obviously in high school, and, you know, he has a lot of problems of his own with taking all these classes and trying to, you know, keep a balance between that and being a superhero, and you know, Tony Stark is giving him a hard time about it. So yeah, that's a very down-to-earth plot. I even like the scene like where he's trying to, you know, web sling around when he's not in the big city. He needs all the big buildings around him to web sling from. Like, he comes across the golf course and there's nothing to, you know, swing across. You know, there's no trees or anything yet. That definitely brings that character, you know, to a down-to-earth plot. I especially like when he's locked inside of a building. And yeah, as I said, this is a different take on this web-slinging superhero. He has to rely now on technology. He has the new Spider-Man suit that's all technological and hacks, beyond the, was it like a firewall or something? Because yeah, it's from Tony Stark himself. He gave it to him, and then he's like, if you can't handle it, you shouldn't have it. So yeah, because like that famous quote goes, with great power comes great responsibility, and obviously he misuses it. And of course, it also is with his personal problems, like trying to partake in the academic decathlon in DC, and that makes for a really good action scene right there, with the Washington Monument. And then you got, I think, the really great scene is with on the ferry. And as you know, the villain is, of course, the Vulture, played by Michael Keaton himself, and I think he does a great job, and he had a good reason for doing this. I'm not going to give too much away on it, but yeah, it obviously is, as I said, Avengers related. It takes place, and obviously it skips time after time, but it's not nearly as bad as Fantastic Four. It doesn't do it for a stupid reason. It actually makes sense. As I said, it's not anything like that crappy 2015 remake of the Fantastic Four. You actually get attached to the plot, and you care about what's going on more than half the times. So yeah, again, there's some quirky acting here and there, and there are some stupid jokes, like with his friend, when he starts asking questions, because as you know, he finds out who he is, and he's like, oh, do you summon spiders and all that crap. And I think the one joke was really stupid out of him, which got some pretty awkward laughs, but I think was a little cringeworthy, was when he was in the library and he starts saying, like, when he gets caught, and he says, I'm looking at porno. That was really stupid. But yeah, Michael Keaton's performance was really good, and I like how it challenges his alter ego to a consent, and yeah, it just shows that he has flaw, and it's great. I liked it. I really enjoyed it is a little over 2 hours, but for the most part, I'd say it was very well entertaining, and yeah, it's a different take, as I said before. And yes, there is an after credit scene, or I'm sorry, a scene during the middle of credits, nothing after, to be exact, and I'm not surprised. It's an Avengers-related movie, after all, but major spoiler, but I'm not going to really give it away too much. Yeah, the last scene, right before the end credits start, you could argue that it got the most laughter out of the whole theater. I mean, it was just a riot. And even the end credits are cool to look through. I mean, it was almost like watching a comic book movie, to say the least. But, as I said, it's different. So, all I could say is, Spider-Man Homecoming, it does a great job. And the one thing I definitely do like, it doesn't show the origin story, even though there's mention of it. And I'm glad of that, because, seriously, how many times have we seen Peter Parker, get the spider bite and see his uncle get assassinated? We didn't need to see that in this film. We know the origin story, just move on, and I'm glad they did that. That's one thing I'll definitely give a thumbs up to. But otherwise, I say this film is definitely well worth it, and I think even in 3D it's well worth it too as well. I'm always skeptical on seeing any of these Avenger movies in 3D, but this one I think was worth it. I only saw it in regular 3D, not IMAX 3D, unfortunately, which I felt like I missed out, but what are you going to do? Otherwise, I think Tom Holland and I think all the actors in this film did a pretty good job for an Avengers-related movie, even after all the skepticism that I had. I'd say Spider-Man definitely rock. So, my final verdict is a rock and weird motion plus up and plain weird mode up. It's pretty good. So, till next time, keep watching.